All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Military History Chronicles. Myself, Eric. I sent Will the link. I'm not sure if he's going to show up. We'll see if he's busy or not. But we'll get into this, guys. What is President Trump's doctrine? All right. And this is what I'm talking about. Talking about Donald Trump's doctrine. It's going to be more based on what he does with foreign affairs, abroad. I'm not going to get into the domestic stuff, guys. I don't really deal with that too much. The only time I will deal with it is, who is he hiring, or I should say, selecting to certain positions, and then we could kind of get into that. It's really not domestic because it still has to do what's going on abroad, such as who he selects is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Who he selects is your Secretary of Defense, your National Security Advisor, Director of National Intelligence, and of course, I think I said Secretary of State. But for those of you who follow me on Twitter, Master History 23, you guys have probably been seeing guys, give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. I'm back. All right, let's get the heck out of here. Sorry about that, guys. Anyways, let's get back into this. Sorry for the delay. So yeah, talking about what's been going on. Like I said, this is going to be specifically just dealing with foreign affairs. That's what we're going to do. Gosh dang it, my freaking internet's still acting up. Hold on. Gosh dang it, dude. Just give me one more second. Good God. I still would have been worried with Kamala Harris as well. But again, she's not the one that's in office. It's President Donald Trump for the second time. So this is something that I was fearing. It's talking about the foreign affairs stuff. I was a little concerned, and I think I talked about this on a few episodes. The tilt to isolationism and protectionism to a certain extent, right? It's like he wants to do what's best for America, and I get it. I understand the concept of doing what's best for America. But this is getting a little bit weird. It's getting a little bit weird. All right, this all started again. Was it a couple of weeks ago? We had the Munich Security Summit, or conference in Munich, Germany. They have it every year where they talk about different security issues of the day. As a matter of fact, I just had a show about that not that long ago. And there was a few comments that were coming through during that summit. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I broke down what Vice President Vance had to say during the summit, and also what Foreign Minister Wang Yi, if I'm not mistaken, that's who it was, right? Or do I have it wrong? I can't remember. I'm sorry. Forgive me if I have it wrong. I don't know if it's one way or the other. Yeah, very differing speeches. Again, both of them were speaking directly to Europe. Okay. You had J.D. Vance, who was pointing out a lot of the faults with the European Union, specifically certain countries, and I understand that. There's issues that they have with immigration, but again, that's their business. How would you feel if European nations were also coming after the United States and how we're treating certain segments of the population? I mean, come on. I mean, you don't want Europe in our business, and we shouldn't be getting into Europe's business to a certain extent, right? Now, when it comes to security, it's a different story. I get it. We have an alliance, and we have an alliance for a reason, right? To help each other out when times get a little bit weird. But it was a stark contrast. You had the Chinese foreign minister who was speaking to European nations, saying, "We welcome you. We want to work together." J.D. Vance is more like, "Get your shit together, or we ain't gonna deal with you," type of stuff. Got a little bit weird. And even prior to that, actually, I don't know if it was just before or after. President Trump had he made some interesting comments from the Oval Office, talking about how Putin wants peace. I've talked to Putin, and he wants peace, right? And as soon as I heard that, my ears perked. And I started getting a little bit busy on Twitter, and I haven't been not busy on Twitter ever since that statement that Trump made, talking about Putin wants peace. Very reminiscent of what happened in 1938 with Neville Chamberlain, who met with Hitler in Munich. Listen, who met Hitler in Munich. And they supposedly got a deal done where there was going to be peace. All right. Neville Chamberlain showed up to back in the UK with a piece of paper in his hand saying peace is at hand, something to that extent. Right. I'm paraphrasing. Lo and behold, we all know what happened after 1938. We had war. Hitler wanted nothing to do with peace. He wanted He wanted war. That's just what he wanted. With Trump saying the same thing about Putin, right? Literally a day later, Putin launched one of his largest drone strikes against the city of Odessa in Ukraine. So if he was that serious about peace, why is he still conducting war? Look, I'm not going to beat around the bush, guys. And everyone can feel what they want to feel, but I'm going to try to deal with the facts as best as possible. It's a fact. Vladimir Putin's Russia invaded Ukraine, period. If the war wanted to end tonight or today over in Ukraine or very early in the morning, he could easily say, okay, we're done. It's over. He has the power to be able to do that. It's the Ukraine, or I should, Ukraine is not attacking Russia. They're defending themselves, right? How are they defending themselves? Yes, they are launching attacks within Russia, but soon as Russia starves, that will stop. I mean, come on, we're talking about war here, guys, and this is what's getting me a little bit cause for concern. It seems, and the perception out there is Trump is alienating his friends and allies. I kind of talked about this before too, when we were talking about a little bit about the tariffs. Remember, he wanted to levy tariffs against Canada and Mexico, and I didn't like that. I don't think that was the right course of action. You know, use diplomacy, talk to people. I keep hearing that that Trump is a master negotiator and he can negotiate anything. So it's like, okay, well, then get to business. Start negotiating. Then don't sit there and start threatening tariffs, because nobody's going to win, especially the regular American. We're all going to have to pay for that. But I'm starting to, and then to go further down the timeline here. Now you got Trump out there talking about, I know Putin wants peace. It's almost he's wanting to normalize the relationship between the United States and Russia. And you can't do that. Not at this time is not the time to do it, right? You have all the leverage in the world talking about the United States. Why on God's green earth is Trump trying to equivocate Putin on the same level? Because it's not. President Trump is not the equal of Putin. He exceeds what Putin is, right? And now you're bringing Putin up to your level, and that's the worst thing that you could do, especially in the times that we're facing today. I've been talking a lot about this, especially during the Biden administration. You cannot project weakness, and that's exactly what it looks like. Again, it's perception. The things that he's saying isn't exactly, for me, it's not kosher. Then there was talk during the MSC, talking again, Munich Security Conference. The United States, again, specifically this Treasury Secretary Bennett had a little piece of paper that he wanted President Zelensky to sign, talking about giving up some of the mineral rights to the United States for payment of what has already been delivered, with no security guarantees whatsoever. Of course, Zelensky failed to sign it, as he should, because that would be egregious on his part as a representative of his own government. You just don't sit there and give up all your mineral rights that are in the trillions of dollars. You just don't give that up without having security assurances. You have to. I mean, he's been under attack for 3 years, and if you are not going to assure security guarantees, well, then what's the point? It's dumb. It absolutely made no sense. And of course, Zelensky failed to sign. He went back to Ukraine, and then during that time, that's when they started having bilateral talks, talking about the United States and Russia started having bilateral talks in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to talk about, I think ceasefire was part of it, but they were also talking about, normalization of relations between the United States and Russia. And I just didn't understand what was going on. When how can you sit there and have bilateral talks about a situation that affects a country that is actually being attacked, and they don't have a seat at the table? It's something just didn't smell right. You can't do that. You can't sit there and you can't hold negotiations of that magnitude in relation to another country when they don't have a seat at the table, let alone having also the European Union involved, because again, they have shouldered a brunt of this sustainment of the fight for Ukraine against Russia. Yeah, Graham. So again, that was started taking place. Zelensky went back to Ukraine, did not sign the little piece of paper. That's what I'm calling it. And then you got, President Trump didn't like it. Decides to call Zelensky a dictator. Talks about the United States contributing $350 billion to the Ukraine in their fight against Russia. Again, he had his facts wrong, guys. You want to say it's a lie? It could be a lie. I think he knows exactly how much money was sent by the United States to Ukraine, and it is $350 billion, closer to $100 billion. If I'm not mistaken, and some of the figures that I saw is $67 billion has been sent in the form of military equipment to Ukraine. And if I'm not mistaken, just over $30 billion as far as cash is concerned, right? We'll just say it that way to make it easy. So again, he's going out there, he's making up some of these numbers that aren't adding up, and to accuse Zelensky of being a dictator because he hasn't had elections. Look, that is not how you negotiate. I'm sorry, that's not how you negotiate with a friend, not necessarily an ally, but a friend. You've been supporting them from the very beginning, talking about the United States. And then you have absolutely nothing to say about Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin has been running the country for, what, 25 years? 25 years, but he doesn't call Putin a dictator. They want to talk. He wants to talk about how the Ukraine could have stopped this war. They could have negotiated the end to the war, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm thinking what he's trying to talk about was the Istanbul Protocol, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. I got a thing that I'm going to put up that we're going to talk about this Istanbul Protocol. Again, it was some negotiations that was happening in the spring of 2022. You know, just after the invasion began with Russia invading Ukraine. So, again, it's you just don't do that. You don't do that. Jay Belton says Z was a tool of the last American. No, that is not correct. Jay, I'm sorry, my friend. That is not true. That is not true. He is the leader of a country that has been invaded. Period. Period. His country has been invaded for no reason whatsoever. So I'm not going to go down this. I'm not going to hear about this. Oh, Zelensky is just, he's stealing this money. That's not what's happening, guys. He's doing everything he can to defend his country. Let's do this, guys. Put yourself in the shoes of Zelensky. Would you not do everything possible to help your country? To push back the invading force so that you can live the life you want to live in your own country? Absolutely, right? Are you just going to roll over? Are you just going to say, who cares? Yeah, Ukraine doesn't need to exist as a country anymore. No, no one would do that. Nobody in their right mind would do that. So again, calling Zelensky a dictator, absolutely ridiculous, and you absolutely have nothing to say about Vladimir Putin in Russia. It doesn't add up. I'm sorry, that does not add up. And I don't understand where President Trump is getting his information from. It's a little bit weird. Again, it concerns me because you shouldn't be negotiating with the man who started the war to a certain extent by appeasing him. Appeasement does not work. It never has worked, and it will not work in this time. Putin will run circles around the United States. Putin was a colonel in the KGB during the Cold War. The guy knows what the hell he is doing, and he has a team surrounding him. The guys that he sent to the negotiations with the United States took him to task. Okay. Stephen Witkoff. Who's Stephen Witkoff? He's a real estate guy. What does he know about foreign diplomacy? Nothing. Marco Rubio. I like Marco Rubio. I think Marco Rubio is pretty decent. But I got a feeling that his wings have been clipped to a certain extent. Just a certain extent. Because he is not necessarily following some of the rhetoric that he has said in the past. And then Mike Waltz. I don't know what's going on with Mike Waltz either. So that one's a little bit weird too, because again, that's a guy that that let it be known of how he has felt, or how he has felt about Russia. And they ran circles around him. They had Larov. I can't remember the other guy's name. I think they talk about it in this the form that I'm going to bring up here in a little bit. But they're just running circles around the United States because, I don't think the United States knows how to negotiate against people who, such as Putin. He is going to get everything he can, every concession, and that's the thing: is where are the concessions that Russia has to give up? I've heard a lot about what the Ukraine has to do, but I'm not hearing anything from the White House or the administration about what Russia has to do. Yes, Russia. Yeah, absolutely. They have nukes pointed at us. I get it. He ain't going to use them. Come on, Paul. He's not going to use them. He'll rattle that saber. He'll rattle that saber, but he ain't going to do nothing. He knows what that consists of. It's going to be the end of the world as we know it. 100%. Again, you cannot fall into the trap that Putin is going to set. And he's setting it, man. Today, the UN resolution, the United States decided to vote with North Korea and Russia in not voting for the resolution talking about the 3-year anniversary of Russia invading Ukraine. Has that ever happened? I don't even know. To be honest with you, I would not even know. I don't think so, but it's a little bit weird. I don't know what's going on. And Russia today talking about they want to offer up their mineral rights to the United States. Hey, you back us and we'll give you some mineral rights. And the United States is taking this in consideration, right? What is going on? I'm not understanding this whole story. I don't get it. It's absolutely just, it has me frustrated. Yeah, Israel is in on it too. I saw that, Senior. And that one I don't understand as well. I can't. What is the issue with kowtowing towards the Russians? It's not going to help you get what you want. And here's another thing. I've heard this from Secretary Bennett, Secretary of Treasury, or the Secretary of Treasury. I've heard this from Stephen Witkoff, the special envoy to the Middle East, even though he's dealing with Russia. I guess he's Trump's right-hand man. I've heard it from President Trump. All of this is based on economics, right? Where can we make the best money? We're talking about war here. I don't think Ukraine at this particular time is concerned so much about making money in the future, right? Just saying. They want peace, right? They want the war to end. They want Russia to stop invading their country. Once that occurs, then we can start talking about rebuilding. But to sit there and say, hey, we got a great mineral deal, it's going to make a lot of money for the both of us. No, no, no. Guys, you have to get Russia to stop the war, period. Oh, listen. Yeah. You talking about Sir Young? Yeah, I'll have to bring that up. And I don't understand what is the point of kowtowing to the Russians. It's showing weakness, whether or not it's that's what's actually happening behind closed doors. But all the all the statements that are being made, all the perception is showing that we are rolling over for the Russians, and that's not any different than appeasing the enemy. Period. All right, hold on. I know what he's talking about, and I will find it. I got so many likes in here. Let me do replies. I know exactly what he's talking about. Not that. Well, we're getting close. This guy. Here we go. Guys, you'll like this. All right. Perfect. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Hey, Graham, you want me to play the one that he played in the studio, or the one that I played yesterday where he's kind of like in his own? The one from yesterday. All right. Guys, you'll like this. Who is this guy? Sir Alex Younger, former MI6 chief. In other words, the equivalent of our CIA director. All right. Let's listen to what this guy has to say, talking about what's going on between Trump, Putin, and Ukraine. All right. Take a listen.
Putin is not Trump's equal in any sense. They've got a lot of nuclear weapons. They've got some gas which they can't exploit without Western technology. That's it. Their economy is 1/14 of that of the United States. So for reasons that are sort of slightly unclear, Trump appears to have admitted Putin as an equal, and he manifestly isn't. Trump promised to end the war in a day. Ending the war of itself is a laudable objective. In a day was hopelessly unrealistic. And it's not happening. And it's not happening because Putin wants something completely different to the thing that Trump wants to talk about. Putin wants Ukraine to be a non-country. Trump wants to talk about land for peace. It's proving a great deal more complicated, therefore, than Donald Trump would have thought. And this is worrying because we're going to hit a point where he's got to make a choice. And the choice he has is to recognize the dangers, as very clearly set out by your previous guest, of essentially agreeing a deal on Putin's terms, which would vindicate this new world order where might is right, and where the rights of big nations trump the rights of small nations, pun intended. Or hopefully, and I imagine this is an argument that Starmer and Macron will carry to Washington, Trump can be persuaded that he needs to hold out for a better deal, one that actually has at the end of this conversation some form of residual free Ukraine with an independent government and an independent foreign policy. Russia is not in a strong position. It's lost 800,000 killed or wounded, and it's running its economy on a war footing that is not sustainable and will lead to a dramatic credit crunch and inflation next year. It's got a manpower crisis, and for all that it feels that it's winning, because it is, because of the horrific sacrifices it's making glacial military progress. Putin has bet the farm on this negotiation. Actually, Putin needs this to succeed more than Trump does. And I think that gives Trump quite a lot more power than perhaps he realizes.
And do you think that might mean that therefore the conflict itself drags on?
I think that one way or another, there will be a ceasefire this year. Is that a frozen conflict based on very little real agreement, which is just a prelude to this war starting up again, where both sides have redrawn their forces? Or is it a stable peace? That's the range of outcome here. But certainly, I think the pressure being put on by Donald Trump and the reality of Russia's position means that something has got to change. And by the way, this is a key point, Adam. I don't actually criticize Trump for disrupting the West's approach to Ukraine because it wasn't working before. Our approach before appeared to be to let them lose slowly. There was nothing particularly honorable about that either. I've got huge criticisms of the way in which this has been conducted. And frankly, I think we need to remember the strength of the Western negotiating position. But I don't decry in any way attempts to end this through diplomacy.
There you go. Again, that's from the equivalent of an American CIA director. That's Alex Younger, or I should say Sir Alex Younger, who was the head of MI6. Again, kind of he's laying it out. He's laying it out there, guys. He's laying it out there. Putin's in a weakened state, and Trump is falling right for it. And he's given him a lifeline. And why you would do that, I have absolutely no idea. No idea. You're alienating your friends and your allies to help out Vladimir Putin when he doesn't need to be helped out. He's the one that started this, guys. And I don't know where this is going to go. It's a little bit weird. Aaron says Putin won't stop until his ultimate objective is bringing back the USSR. Absolutely. And you know what? And a lot of this, and let's talk about this too, guys. Is it all about the land of Ukraine? No, it's not. For Vladimir Putin, what do you think Vladimir Putin this is all about? And Aaron, it's almost kind of to your point. What he wants is he wants recognition. He wants the glory. He wants the prestige. He wants to be looked upon the world as an equal, talking about as a superpower, his country, as the United States and as China. He wants to be up there, but they're not. And after this, who knows? I mean, whatever. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But that's the problem. It's not just about the territory of Ukraine. It's about more about what's in his mind than anything else. And I'm going to tell you something. Here's another thing. You can't afford Ukraine. I'm talking about Europe and the rest of the world can't afford Ukraine to fall into Russian hands, because now because he's going to use the armed forces of Ukraine to fold into the Russian military, and tell me how that's going to work out for the rest of Europe. Because Ukraine is a pretty formidable adversary right now. So there's so many things at hand here. I'd say none of this is making sense. I'm going to bring this up real quick. I saw this yesterday. Steve Witkoff was going around all the different Sunday news shows talking about how the Istanbul Protocol should be used as a guidepost to a future peace deal. Well, the Institute for the Study of War, they had this interesting, they had this, as a matter of fact, on their Twitter, and I was able to download this. Interesting. Let me go over this, and then I'll get to more of your guys' stuff, what you're saying. Again, what is the Istanbul Protocol draft document of April 15th? Again, during this time, there was negotiations going on between Russia and Ukraine and try to end the war. Okay. What happened was, for those of you, let's recap. Remember, 3 years ago today, well, actually yesterday, 3 years ago as the war started, the Russian-Ukrainian war had started. Okay. Putin had this grandiose idea that he thought he was going to be in Kiev by 3 days. Didn't work out that way. Okay. The Russian invasion stalled. The Ukrainians pushed them back. They put up a hell of a fight. The Ukrainians, man, I'm telling you, they put it to the Russians big time. Russians had to fall back. All of a sudden now, they want to talk about peace. Again, it's kind of disingenuous by the Russians, because they weren't wanting peace, because they thought, hey, yeah, there's There's we're being nice now. We're gonna pull back our troops. We're being nice. Let's talk about peace. No, what actually happened on the ground was the Ukrainians were kicking their ass and they're trying to save face. But as we read what these takeaways were during these negotiations, again back in the spring of 2022, you could see Russia was not serious about having peace. Some of the things that they're asking for is just absolutely incredible. All right, let's take a look. Ooh, too much. Istanbul draft agreement would have left Ukraine helpless in the face of future, keyword, future Russian threats and aggression. It imposed no limitations on the size of the Russian military and no obligations on Russia other than those noted below. We'll get into what's noted. The draft agreement would have prohibited the continued Western military assistance and support that U.S. officials have repeatedly urged European states to offer, as well as bilateral security agreements, which U.S. officials have also encouraged European countries to make. It is thus entirely incompatible with the current stated U.S. policy and cannot be the basis or guidepost for negotiations that amount to anything other than capitulation to Russia's pre-war demands. So in other words, Russia was basically saying, Ukraine, you can't have shit. and what it does is it leaves the door open to Russia to invade Ukraine at another time. 100%. You can't have what is bilateral agreements? In other words, if Germany wanted to make an agreement with Ukraine, that's a bilateral agreement between the two countries. Okay. So Germany could offer security assurances to Ukraine in the event that if Russia invades, the Germans are going to help them. Bilateral agreements. Russia wanted nothing to do with that. No bilateral agreements with anybody. So basically, Ukraine is just hanging in the air with no backing whatsoever. It's ridiculous. Again, we're just talking about that. U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, referred to on February 23rd, yesterday, to the draft of the Istanbul Protocol as a guidepost for future negotiations. Russia demands in the draft agreement remain in the first and second months of the war when Russian troops were advancing on Kiev City and throughout the northeastern, eastern, and southern Ukraine, and before Ukrainian forces conducted successful counteroffensives that liberated significant swaths of territory in Kharkiv and the Kherson Oblasts. The draft agreement does not reflect the situation today in which Ukraine has liberated 50% of the territory Russian forces had seized since 2022 and largely forced the year-long Russian offensive to a standstill. The Istanbul draft agreement surrenders Ukraine's sovereignty and prohibits any efforts by Ukraine or any other state to maintain Ukrainian armed forces adequate to deter or defend against a future Russian attack. It also explicitly ruled out many actions the Trump administration officials have identified as parts of a peace agreement acceptable to the United States. Here are some of the things, right? What Russia demanded. Russia be treated as a neutral security guarantor state or guarantor of Ukraine, along with other permanent members of the UN Security Council. Premise of the Minsk II Accords that did not treat Russia as a belligerent in the war. Ukraine is forbidden to invite partner forces to conduct military exercises. China and Russia all have a veto over the mechanism for responding to future armed conflict in Ukraine by making China and Russia Ukraine's security guarantors and granting the United States or the United Nations Security Council the authority to take measures necessary to restore and maintain international peace and security. China and Russia are permanent members of the UNSC and could use their veto power to block responses to future Russian aggression. Ukraine must amend its constitution to make the Russian an official state language in Ukraine on equal footing with Ukrainian language. Change its internal laws. Lift all Ukrainian sanctions against Russia imposed since 2014. Ukraine amended its constitution to remove the provision committing Ukraine to NATO membership and to add a neutrality provision that would ban Ukraine from joining any military alliances, concluding military agreements, or hosting foreign military personnel. Here's the demands. Again, let's take a look at this. Russia wanted Ukraine's active personnel to be 85,000. It's at pre-war, it was 196. They had almost 200. They almost had a 200,000. What's up, Jim? They almost had a 200,000 manned armed forces. National Guard, 15 days is what the Russians want. Before the war, they had 60. Tanks, Russia only wants them to have 342. Before the war, they had 858. Armored combat, like artillery pieces, blah, 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 surface, blah, blah, blah. Aircraft, 102 is what Russia wants. They had only 124. And then anti-tank, and then they didn't even get into this. So basically, I guess the NA, no, they're talking about that. Missile systems at a range of 200. Yeah, because they didn't have those. So in other words, you're neutering the Ukrainians as a guidepost. This is quote unquote the deal that Steve Witkoff says they want to use as a guidepost. Well, it's not really a good guidepost, guys. It's a guidepost in helping Russia to be able to invade Ukraine at a later time. And senior, yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is the issue I have. The U.S. used to kick guys like Putin's ass. Dictators were the enemy, and now we're defending them. F that. That's the issue that I'm having, man. I can't understand what is going on here. Remember, I started this channel just over a year ago, about a year and a half, somewhere around there. Actually, not quite. And I always was talking about the weakness that Biden has shown during his administration. And now we're doing similar things as far as foreign diplomacy is concerned under the second Trump administration. I'm not understanding the path that we're taking here. A lot of this is reminiscent, and I see Graham talking about it, of what happened prior to World War II. You put your head in the sand. You start appeasing the men that you're not supposed to be appeasing. And it's going to turn into a shitburger, man. You got to have guys, and I also see Graham talking about this. You got to have guys that are qualified to be able to do this type of stuff. What I'm talking about having negotiations with we'll just say antagonistic countries. Because I'm telling you, these countries, talking about Russia and China, even North Korea, if you don't have your wits about you, they are going to chew you up and spit you out, and you ain't going to know whether you're coming or going. And then next thing you know, we are up shit creek. Yes, Ibrahim. I'm telling you, let's talk about this. And I don't understand what the hell is going on. I don't understand the timeline. Why is there such a rush? Look, I understand. I don't like war just like anyone else. But when war is upon you, it has a natural flow to it. And what you cannot do is you cannot force a peace settlement. You just can't. You cannot force peace. It will happen. But you know what happens? It takes time. How long did it take for the Treaty of Versailles to get hammered out? Take a guess. How long did it take? Treaty of Versailles. I think it took over a year, right? Maybe even longer than that. The Treaty of Versailles, the treaty that ended World War I. How long did it take? How long did it take to end the Vietnam War? They had deliberations for years. I think it's close to 4 years they're having deliberations to try to end the Vietnam War. You cannot get this done in a matter of a month. It's not going to happen. The only way it gets hammered out in a month, is if you're just going along with what Putin says. If there's no back and forth and you just go along with what Putin's demands are, well, then there you go. There's your peace. But what kind of peace is that going to be? What kind of peace are you going to have if you're just trying to put a little notch in your belt? I got peace done in my time. It's not going to work, man. That's not how the real world. This is not about closing a real estate deal. We're talking about a war, a pretty damn significant war. And a lot of times peace is not achieved until someone is spent. That the results on the battlefield will dictate when peace will be able to be achievable. And right now, the assessment on the battlefield over there, it looks like they're not close yet. Maybe Russia is. Maybe that's why they're trying to push Trump to try to get this done, because they're up against it. That's possible. But President Trump should understand, okay, you're up against the wall, so guess what? This is going to be our terms. This is how war has always worked, guys. The loser loses. The loser does not win. When you lose, there are consequences. Part of the consequences, well, look throughout history in war. Sometimes you lose land. You lose, well, manpower, of course. You lose your population because of the people who have fought. You lose treasure, right? Because of the amount of money that you have spent on said war. But there's a lot of times you'll lose land. A lot of times there's penalties to be paid. Look what happened to Germany after World War I. A lot of restitution. Okay. There are consequences when you lose a war. And again, this goes both ways, whether you started the war or whether you didn't start the war. If you lost, you're going to have to pay. I'm sorry, but you're not going to come out on equal footing as everyone else. If you got your ass kicked, well, guess what? You got your ass kicked. And I don't know why Trump is sending out a lifeline to Putin. It doesn't make any sense. Again, this is the part that I just don't understand. And I just don't like the path that we're taking. I don't. It doesn't help. And it doesn't help throwing a fit because Zelensky decided not to sign your piece of paper. You decide to throw a fit and call the man a dictator. The guy who's been defending the last 3 years from his country from being attacked. And you literally took your ball and went home with it. And you got your butt hurt. Get out of here, man. That's not, I'm sorry, but that's not statesmanship. And in situations like this, in dealing with geopolitical issues, you got to be a statesman, and you got to have a team around you that understand what the hell is going on. You have to get experts in an area. You got to get people who understand Russia thinking. You got to get people who understand Chinese thinking. You got to get people who understand the Middle East thinking. And if you look, what does Marco Rubio have? What is his forte? Is he an expert in Russian history in any kind of way or form? Steve Witkoff, does he have any experience in dealing with the Chinese and the Russians and dealing with geopolitical type of situations? Mike Waltz, maybe a little bit. You're setting yourself up for failure. And I don't like it. I don't like the path that we're taking. And I will continually to say so. Again, guys, if you want to follow me on Master History 23, I've been having a lot of conversations on there. Again, that's because I just don't like the direction it's going. No, we haven't. It's not 300 billion, Paul. It's not 300 billion. Paul, let me ask you a question. What would you do if you were the leader of a country? Would you do whatever it took to defend your country? Bring something up. No, honestly, if you were the leader, if you were in Zelensky's shoes and you were the president of Ukraine, would you not do whatever you could to defend your country? No matter what it takes. He's not a dictator. How's he a dictator? Zelensky was voted by the Ukrainians to be their president. He's not a dictator. You're avoiding a question, Paul. That's what I'm just asking you. If you were the leader of a country that was invaded by another country, would you not do whatever you could possibly do to defend your country? Because I don't understand what is going on. I don't understand the mindset of some of these people where another country has been invaded. And we want to turn our back on them. Ukraine battle map, pretty good. 391,000 followers. Live Ukrainian battle map is updated all the time, showing cities, villages, and being under Ukrainian or Russian control. Again, he's got his sources here. If you guys want to follow it, you'll be able to see this. It's quite a bit. There's quite a bit to unpack here. As of today, a total of 51.3 billion to 56.3 billion in military aid has been delivered to Ukraine by the United States. As of September 2024, a total of 56 billion in military aid was delivered to Ukraine, according to DoD. These numbers are confirmed with only U.S. government sources, including all congressional bills passed on Ukraine as of the last U.S. aid package pledged to Ukraine on January of 2025. Full breakdown. 65.9 billion in military aid has been pledged by the U.S. since February of 2022. In other words, this is the anniversary. Since the anniversary of the invasion of Russia over to Ukraine, we have sent 66 billion of military aid, 34 billion in PDA, and 31 billion in USAI. Okay. From January 8th of 2025, 21 billion was delivered, 9 billion had not yet delivered, 1.7 yet to be pledged. I'll explain how USAI funding works. U.S. orders from the companies like Raytheon to get weapons delivered from Ukraine. U.S. ordered 31 billion in weapons for Ukraine. Some of those weapons are made quickly, like shells. Other weapons, like NASAMS, which is anti-missile or a anti-aircraft missile, take many years to make and deliver. That's why 9.8 billion is pledged. USAI funds has not yet been delivered to Ukraine, according to the Pentagon spokesman. Take years for it to reach Ukraine. 72 packages have been pledged to Ukraine by the U.S. president since February of 2022. This aid comes directly from U.S. stockpiles to Ukraine on a plane or by ship. This aid still is arriving in Ukraine every day of the week. However, around 32 billion of that aid has been delivered, with 2 billion yet to be delivered. Trump still has the ability to pledge some of that aid, several billions of it to Ukraine. Again, pledged does not mean delivered. It's basic misunderstanding of how different military aid is delivered to Ukraine. This is a full calculation of all the aid approved by Congress for Ukraine. during the war. April, 13 billion, 7 billion PDA. Again, two different types of pots of money. Total, 21. December of 2022, we're at 23. September 22, 6. May and March of 2022, 17. Total aid packages since the start of the war, 69.12. Biden administration had loopholes where they pledged aid, bringing in an aid to 600 million of that amount. Again, if you guys want to follow this, go check it out. It's not $350 billion damn dollars that the United States has sent to Ukraine. Just hasn't. You got to be careful on where you're hearing this information from, guys. Just because the president goes out in front of a microphone and says 350 billion and that Zelensky's a dictator doesn't mean it's true. Thank you, Jay Farrell. Thank you. It's not, they're not getting cash, man. They're getting material to fight the war. I don't understand. What is the problem? Isn't the United States all about defending freedom, democracy? Isn't that what the United States is about? I don't understand why there is so much pushback against helping a nation who has been attacked for no reason whatsoever other than Putin's ideological thoughts and machinations. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's dumb. And another thing, what are you telegraphing to all your friends and allies across the globe? Not just in Europe, but also in Asia. Are the giants listen to me. Is the United States going to roll over every time that there's a threat out there? And I'm telling you, people are watching. And what I mean by people are watching, if you don't think China is watching what's going down right now, well, I'll be the first one to tell you. China is 100% watching exactly what is happening right now. And if you don't think they're going to take advantage of this, you're sadly mistaken. Because the Chinese are on a war footing. 100%. 100% China is in a war footing, and they're just waiting for the right time. Dan. They are 100% watching. And Dan, I'm sure you may know some of this. You know, I know you have your wife's family that live in the Philippines. The Philippines, man, you want to talk about a little nation putting it to the Chinese, man. They are pushing back. They do not like what the Chinese are doing off the west coast of the Philippines. That thing's going to pop off. It's going to pop off. And then where are we going to be? This is scary, guys. This has bigger implications than just what's going on in Ukraine. You got Europe, and look, and I'll tell you what, I'll be the first person to say Europe has to step up. Period. They have to step up. I get it. I don't disagree with Trump on that. He wanted Europe to step up and pay for their defense, and yes, they should. Absolutely, they should. And right now, there's a lot of them that are doing it. Now, the big ones, not so much. Germany, France, and the UK got to do a better job. They got to do a better job with their own military. Now, there's been a lot of talk over the last couple of days. UK, I guess they announced today, they're going to send $5 billion worth of material to Ukraine. Germany is talking about, they're talking about increasing their defense budget by $200 billion, which they should. I mean, they should. The guys you don't want to turn your back on, you don't want to turn back on Poland, because Poland is leading the way for European nations. They're spending close to 5% of their GDP on defense. They know what it's about. Look, Poland understands what it means to live under Soviet/Russian control, and they don't want to deal with that again. The Baltics, same way. Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, they're all spending a shit ton of money on their defense because they understand what it's like to have the yoke of the Soviets on their back. They don't want to do that. So again, I agree with Trump on that. They got to pay. But the problem is he's going about it in a way where you're starting to alienate your friends and allies, because when shit hits the fan, who's going to be there to have our back? Let's not forget. Let's talk about Article 5 for NATO. Everyone understand what Article 5 is about? You hear a lot of people talk about it. But what is it? What is Article 5? I'll just give you the Cliff Notes version of it. An attack on one is an attack on all, right? Talking about NATO. Anyone who is a NATO member, if they are attacked by whoever, right? All the NATO countries are supposed to get together. They have a meeting and they decide whether or not, hey, do we want to go and attack? Yeah, that's what it is. It's about coming to the aid of a friend and an ally. How many times has Article 5 been triggered? And don't Google it. Don't Google it. How many times has the Article 5 been triggered? Real quick. I'll give you the count of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's up, Mike? 6. There you go, Jay Farrell. Only once. 9/11. Who was attacked on 9/11, Jay Farrell? Who was attacked on 9/11? Come on. The United States. Who came to the aid of the United States when Article 5 was triggered? All NATO countries. You know how many members of NATO countries died in Afghanistan? Over 1,000. Over 1,000 NATO members. Part of the, or I should say, armed forces that were part of NATO. Over 1,000. Over 1,000 died in Afghanistan to help us. Okay? That's the purpose of Article 5. We needed that help, guys. We were attacked and people came to our rescue. Granted, we're the most powerful military in the world, right? But it's nice to have friends and allies, right? I think I know what you're talking about, Graham. I'm just talking about when it actually came to fruition. I know where you're going, Graham. But this is the issue. Now that's all being thrown into the wind. If you want to be a country based on morals, then you need to stick up for the agreements that you have signed, right? If you signed your name to the dotted line for NATO to come to the assistance of others, well, then guess what? You need to do that. It's better to have friends than enemies. And that's the problem. What are you going to do with the rest of the Europe? Is Europe going to pivot? Again, I started this conversation talking about the two distinctive speeches given at the Munich Security Conference by J.D. Vance and by China's foreign minister. If you think that Europe would never pivot to China, you better be careful. You better be careful. And if you don't think that China could try to somehow get into this whole peace negotiation between Ukraine and Russia, you better think again. You start talking about minerals and all this other stuff. And if China wants to corner the market in said minerals, why wouldn't they get involved? You don't think if you piss off Ukraine enough that Ukraine doesn't pivot to China? Again, it's getting a little bit murky there. I understand. But don't tell me that's not out of the realm of possibility. You sit there and you start acting this way, people will do remarkable things when they're under pressure. Especially a country that has already been at war for 3 years. And here's another thing. And guys, I don't know if you heard Zelensky speak today. He had an interesting speech, and he had some interesting things to say today and the other day as well. He has been fighting a war for 3 years against Putin. Do you think he actually is scared, so to speak, about what Donald Trump is going to do? Look, the United States has the most resources available to help them, right? Understand it. But he is not going to be rolled over. And he shouldn't. To be honest with you, he shouldn't be. But Europe is starting to come together. Whether or not it stays together, that's going to be a different question. Well, that story is unfolding. But you got to be careful in how you treat some of these people, because this isn't about freaking doing real estate in New York City. It just isn't. This stuff doesn't get solved in a matter of weeks or even months. It could take years. This is war, guys. And war, like I said, I've said this a million times on this channel. When war is upon you, you cannot control it. It takes a life of its own. You don't know what direction it's going to take. You hope you have a good understanding of what you're trying to do. You hope that you have a good strategy in place to get to achieve your objectives. But once it starts going sideways, you don't know what's going to happen. And I'm first to say, there needs to be peace. But at what expense? How much are you giving up? And like I said, if you're a loser, you're going to lose. If you win, you're going to win. You don't win if you lose. That's just... Mike, he's asked, do I think Trump can stop the war? I don't know. I think the way he's going about it right now is not the right way. Not when you're taking the side of the aggressor rather than those who are being attacked. A little bit weird, isn't it? Don't you think that's a little bit weird? That President Trump is taking the side of the attacker? Dan, dude! I love it! Holy shit, dude! Gatto! Giant Sports Talk Live, NorCal Sports Network, Even Your Dynasty, and others who want to join the Giants Homer Media members attack us. The Giants American Treaty Organization. We're coming after Pavlovich, Slusher, and others. Oh, shit, dude. I love it. Dan? That's freaking awesome, man. Dude, I like it. Thanks for actually making me laugh during this whole thing. Oh, man, that's great. Gatto. I'm going to have to write that shit down. Oh, my damn pen works. Gatto. Giants American Treaty Organization. Love it. Not down with skaters. Oh, man. But here's the thing. The messaging out there is just, it's bad. again, I'm not privy to what's going on behind closed doors. But it's not looking good. I've never seen, and Graham, I think you told me this. Graham, he's been on this earth much longer than I have, and he understands, has a little bit more history. I've never seen an American president act as such in a situation as this, especially dealing with, let's say, Soviets/Russians. Yeah, I've never seen it. So it's very, very odd, and I just don't think, for me, I don't think it plays. I think he's got to get it. Then here's the problem. I think the issue with Trump now is he's hiring. I shouldn't say hiring. He's selecting guys who are more yes men than guys who would bring a different voice. It's about just following orders. Yes, sir. Whatever you say. There's no pushback. There's no, Mr. President, I think we probably should maybe go this direction because of this, this, and this, right? He just wants to hear yes men. And that is the worst possible thing that you could do as a president. You cannot have yes men, because all that's going to do, it's going to lead to trouble. It just doesn't sit well with me. I don't like his selection for the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff. I don't like his selection for the Secretary of Defense. I like Marco Rubio. I like Mike Waltz. So I don't know what Stephen Witkoff is even doing. I don't think he should be part of this. You need to get guys who understand your adversaries. Information is power, man. And you got to find people who absolutely understand what you're up against. I'll say this again. If you don't, they're going to eat your lunch. That's all. I'll just leave it at that. Mike, I'm not going to even get in. I'm not getting into the domestic stuff, dude. I don't know anything about that. I've heard a couple of people talk to me about it, and I'm just like, I don't know about that. That seems a little bit much. Graham says, I have seen many presidents that served when they held office. This one I'm worried about, and also who surrounds him and has his ear. Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. Jay Farrell, what's up? You had an excellent comment earlier talking about where the money is going, right? Trump thinks there will be profit for himself if he aligns with Putin. He neither understands nor cares about the geopolitical implications. That's what I've been saying. That's exactly what I've been saying. Jay Farrell, give me a follow. Master History 23. I don't know if you're already following me. That's the crux of everything that I've been talking about this situation going on. And that's what scares me, Graham. If that is indeed true, where he has a phobia with high-ranking military officers and intelligence chiefs, that concerns me. Look, I like what he did in his first term. He surrounded himself with some excellent people. Excellent people. H.R. McMaster. I can't remember. Mattis. General Mattis. John Bolton, I think, came in after H.R. McMaster. He had a lot of good guys who understood. Mike Pompeo, I liked him as Secretary of State. He had some really, I know, Graham. Either they were fired or they quit. Correct. And that's the thing, is he had a huge turnaround in his first term. And that's a sign of, what do you want to say? It raises question marks, right? When you keep firing people or people quitting, there's an underlying problem. No, Jay, that's not quite true. China's been doing this for quite a long time. Jay, take a look at some of the Chinese history. They've been planning this for about a couple of 100 years, to be honest with you. 100%. Jay, China has been talking about this for a couple of 100 years. And they're getting away with it. They've gotten away with it from every administration, from both parties. 100%. And it did not start with Obama. You know, I'll tell you what. You know what really got the ball rolling? Allowing them to get into WTO. That's the problem. Once you brought China into the mainstream, so to speak, economically, that's where it started getting a little bit loosey-goosey. Right, Graham, exactly. That's the thing about the Chinese. They are diligent. They understand their history. They don't forget their history. They will 100% wait this out. They will wait until the time is right. And look, it's getting close. It is getting awfully close. It's only a matter of time before that shoe drops in the Western Pacific. And then what are you going to do? Yeah, the Secretary of Defense. Yeah. Look, I don't think he has the qualifications. I don't think the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff that he has selected to be the chairman, I don't think he has the qualifications. Look, you're talking about big strategic, SecDef and chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff. You better have the big picture. You better understand Russia, China, the Middle East, India to an extent. You got to know all of that. And if you've never been in a position where you are dealing with those individuals or those entities, you're not doing yourself any favors as far as having a guy that's going to be competent. If it's just a guy to say, yes, sir, going to be in trouble. And to a certain extent, you have to. I mean, yeah, President Trump is the commander in chief, but you got to be able to push back. There's times you have to, if the decisions look wrong, you got to speak up. You just cannot say, okay. Yeah, there you go, Jay. See? Yeah, it's gonna be weird. Yeah, I saw that about the tariffs. I saw that news earlier today. I guess March 4th is the day, right? D-Day for tariffs again. I thought they paused them, so I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know, man. I just don't have all the answers. Oh, what is this? See if anything else is new here. It's all quiet right now. Huh. I'll repost that. Looks like Israel might be conducting another Gaza incursion here. Oh boy. Here, I'll show you guys this real quick, guys. Again, a little news on what's going on in Gaza Strip. Yeah, Trudeau is trying to act tough. Yeah. I don't like Trudeau. I don't. But I'll give him kudos. He was there to support Zelensky. I got no issue with that. But on everything else, thanks, Jay. Appreciate that, man. I do. I appreciate that. I hope I don't come off as attacking. I'm not going to come off as attacking. I'm just want to just tell you how I feel. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Jay. What's up, PMG? Yeah, I'm still around. I'll be here for a little while longer here. Let's talk about this. Man, I don't want to butcher this. I guess this is a news organization in Israel, I'm guessing. Reports that the Israel Defense IDF is completing preparations for a renewed large-scale ground and air operation in the Gaza Strip, in anticipation that phase 2 of the ceasefire will not move forward. And following the strengthening of Hamas during the last few months, thousands of terrorists are said to have returned to northern Gaza Strip. Recognizing military frameworks, collecting explosives, and preparing tunnels and rocket launch sites, the IDF has warned Hamas is hurt, but far from defeated. Oh boy. Might see some more fireworks going on in the Gaza Strip. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Ooh, what's this? Oh, yeah. SpaceX launching Super Heavy, I think, on Friday, guys. Friday. See the largest rocket in the world take off again. Not seeing. Oh yeah, we could get into that too. And in the meantime, when Trump is aligning with Russia, you got the European Union who are throwing more sanctions against Russia, which is it's good to see. Seeing Europe stepping up. So we'll see how far that goes. Yeah, I already talked about that one. That was weird. Graham, that was weird. Yeah, I know. Graham, yeah, the United States, they have plans to invade everybody. I'm sure there's a bunch of plans sitting in the file cabinets in the Pentagon. Do they even have file cabinets anymore? Anyways, guys, I think hey, win an hour and a half. I think I got everything off that I wanted to get off. If anything else decides to pop off, then I'll be back here and we'll talk about it. But this is where we are, guys. I'm not liking the direction. No, I didn't. I'm not going to even get into. Look, I don't understand why we're having to get into the political business of every other country, right? I don't know why. Why are we getting into that? Thanks, Fossey. Appreciate that, man. I'm not. Why are we worried about the other political leanings in other countries right now? Didn't we have enough of that, right? Hey, we got people interfering with our elections. Well, guess what? The same people who are talking about people interfering with our elections are trying to interfere with elections in other countries. It's like, come on. It's a little bit of hypocritical, right? Just a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not naive. I understand the United States has been involved in other people's, elections to get the guy that they want to be elected. I get it. This day and age is a little bit different. That's a great question, PMG. NATO is looking a little fragile. A little fragile. What's up, Tom? Hey, and that's the thing. Look, and do I hate everything Trump is doing? No, I don't hate everything Trump is doing. I just have absolutely no confidence in the foreign affairs. That's it. That's where it draws the line. I like how he's trying to shrink government. I get it. That makes sense. There's a lot of fat in the government that can be trimmed. There's no doubt about it. I'm all good about that. But the problem is, if you're doing it with executive orders, that shit's coming right back with the next president. You got to get that shit codified in Congress. If Congress doesn't take the bull by the horns, so to speak, then nothing's going to change. You got to make it permanent. And if you don't make it permanent, all it is the president will come in, sign all these executive orders, make it look like there's change. And guess what? The next president behind him comes in, sign his executive orders, and then it's right back to the same shit. So while I like that he's trying to reduce the size of government, you got to make it permanent. Otherwise, it does nothing. It means nothing. It's a short-term game. Who wants the short-term game? That's not going to do nothing. Congress it's got to step up. I don't know if that ever happened in my lifetime. You bet hope. You bet hope. Yeah, the tariff. I kind of mentioned that earlier, Mo. Exactly. Tariffs don't hurt. Tariff hurts everybody, but it's not going to hurt the governments. It's not going to hurt the U.S. government. It's not going to hurt the Canadian government. It's just going to hurt us. It's going to hurt us. You bet, Val. Not really history per se. A little bit of history, but most of it was just what's going on as far as foreign affairs and kind of drawing from the past and understand, hey, this is not the way to go. That's the why eggs are so expensive. No, that's not the. I think the eggs are expensive because of the bird flu. Don't even get me started at. Went to Costco yesterday and I couldn't buy my damn eggs. Pissed me off, man. But I still got plenty, so we're good. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out here on this this Monday night. It was fun. I enjoyed talking to all you. It was good stuff. When is gas going to? Good luck with that. We're getting ready to get into spring and summer. Gas is going to go up, Mike. That's how it always is in California. But hey, just again, stay tuned. Anything else? If there's like big news, of course, I'll come right on and try to talk about it. But then maybe in about another 2 weeks or so, I'll have another episode. But thanks for hanging out, guys. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the input, the interaction. It was good. Got to talk this out again. If you want to hear about more what I say, I just don't retweet. I've been responding to a lot of tweets. So if you give me a follow, Master History 23, and we'll see you guys on Twitter because you'll see me again in between MHC episodes. You could see me interacting there on Twitter if you have Twitter. So guys, be good out there, and we'll see you on the next one. See ya.